Okay, what you're saying, people, welcome back to my channel, and today we've got the weekly Forex analysis. Now, if you're new to my channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button, leave a like, so I'll be dropping a lot of Forex related content in the future. I'll be doing this weekly Forex analysis every week, and you don't want to miss out on that. But like I said, today is the weekly Forex analysis, and these are the 10 pairs that I'm going to be analysing today, so let's jump to it. So first up, we have Euro USD. Okay, so we're going to start with the daily time frame, and you can see that the market is still consolidating, it's still moving sideways. On the lower time frame, you can see that there's a slight uptrend, but in the daily time frame, there's no real direction in the market. It's still ranging, and you can see that on the weekly time frame, we've got 1, 2, 3 touches giving us that trend line, and then price is having a tough time to break that trend line. But you can see that we have a lot of wicks on the weekly time frame, indicating that there is still a lot of bearish pressure, but the market is still failing to break back down, so the market is still ranging. So from a daily perspective, you want the market to break either to the upside or to the downside, and you can trade it on the retest and follow it in the direction, either to the upside or to the downside. If it breaks to the upside, we could be seeing a larger trend to the monthly trend line here, or if we're looking at the downside, and then we could be seeing a move to this daily trend line here and retesting this level here before we look to go back in an upwards movement. So if you go to the monthly time frame, you can see that we still have this wedge pattern, 1, 2, and recently a third. So we're expecting to go test this upper trend line of the monthly, because we've just come from this lower trend line. So we're expecting a move to the upper one before we eventually break out either to the upside or to the downside of this wedge pattern. So just as an overview, we're just waiting for the price to break out of this consolidation, either up or to the downside. Now we're going to see what's happening with USD JPY. Okay, so with USD JPY, there's still a lot of bearish pressure in the market. We do have this ascending channel on the daily, but price is struggling to move away from this channel, from this trend line on this channel to go to the upside. It's struggling. They originally had that original move, got to this level, came back down, retested that same trend line, and has formed a lower high. So there's still a lot of bearish pressure in the market. As you can see, that we had the initial push, and then price is failing to make that to break the high there. It came back down and was consolidating a bit in the lower markets, and it looks like it's made a movement back to the downside. So we could be seeing another retest of this trend line and the move to the upside, but there's still a lot of bearish pressure in the market. So we could be getting a break of this trend line, and you can look for a retest and ride it to this level down here. And if we go to the weekly, you can see that we had a touch here, a touch there, and a touch there, giving us that downwards trend in the market. Price is making those lower highs. So we're either expecting price to come and make another lower high, because we do have that ascending channel on the daily time frame, but it could well be that the price is going to break this break the ascending channel and just obey the higher time frame trend, which is a downwards trend. Price is struggling to break this level down here. It's done for some time, since 2018. So if price does break the channel, that's where we're expecting price to come and retest. And if it does manage to break that, then we're expecting a longer move down here to this level down there. So on the daily, all we're just waiting for is to see what happens when price gets to here. And if there is price action and some reversal patterns, then you can expect to see price rise again. But there is a lot of pressure coming down from the bears, so it could be another move to upside for a little bit and then a break back down. But we have to see next week. And if price does carry on just to go straight through and ignore the trend line, you can look some corrections, some retests in the 4-hour time frame or the intraday time frames, and just look for selling opportunities. So just wait to see how price reacts with this level in the early stages of next week. Okay, so we're going to move on to USD CAD now. Okay, so for USD CAD, you can see that we're still in that ranging pattern on the daily time frame. Prices start between these two levels. So again, we're still waiting for a break to the upside or the break to the downside. I'm still favoring a break to the upside, because on the weekly time frame, you see that we do have this ascending channel of 1, 2, 3, 4 touches, and price has been respecting that. And then we've got 1, 2, 3, a false breakout there, and a recent test of the same trend line the past few weeks. So we're expecting price to respect this ascending channel and keep moving to the upside. But currently, price is still ranging, and we need a break of that that pattern soon. So look to the daily time frame. You can see that price did try and make a breakout last week, but it came back in, fell back into the pattern, and it's still stuck there. It retested the lower level of that pattern and it got rejected again. So we're just waiting for that breakout, and you can look at the lower time frames, either 4 hour or the 1 hour, some intraday time frames. I don't know why I keep saying intraday time frames, and then look for a retest, and then you can take a trade there or even to the downside. And if it does break to the downside, we could be looking at a possible double bottom before we get the move back up to the upside. Okay, so let's take a look at Euro GBP. Okay, so on the daily time frame, you can see that we had a break of this daily trend line here. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're looking for the 5th touch. We had the break. We were expecting either price to respect it or break down to the downside and have that downtrend we've been expecting, which is what happened. And then there was some correction on the 4 hour and the 1 hour time frame. You could have entered the market where price came to retest that level and make a move to the downside. But on the daily, we do have some indecision, so we could get maybe a smaller move to retest this level and then get the move to the downside, but still price could just carry on off that downwards trend. On the weekly time frame, you can see that we had that expanding pattern, and price looks like it's going to retest the lower side of that expanding pattern. We had the break of the daily trend line, and so we're going to expect a longer move, a longer trend to the downside. And if that does happen, we're expecting price to come and hit this low at least, or if it does break that, then go and hit this downwards trend line that price has been making. So we'll just be waiting to see what happens. It does look like we're going to have a downtrend on Euro GBP. You can wait to see if there's any large corrections to enter the market, but it does look like price is going to be heading to the downside. Now up next, we're going to analyze NZD CAD. Okay, so on NZD CAD, you can see that we still have this uptrend going on. We had a breakout of this pattern last week, and price is still heading that upwards direction, and it's just recently hit the weekly trend line. So if we go on the week, you can see that price will be making lower highs, and we have that downwards trend, but price has hit that trend line and it has broken through it. So it just depends what price does in the next few days and the next couple of weeks. If it does maintain that and have a break and maybe a retest, or breaks and keeps on going, then we could start to see a new uptrend in the market, but it could well be a break of the trend line and then a break back in and just have a false breakout, and then we get the longer move back to the downside. But if you do look at price over here, we do have a low here, and price has gone and hit the same low, giving us a double bottom. There is a bit of volatility, but price didn't maintain that low down there. It came right back up. So we do have sort of a double bottom pattern. Then this is the previous swing high, so you can see that price has come down, made a push back up, push back down, failed to fully break this level and push back up, and has broken the last swing high. So it does mean that we could be having a new uptrend in the market, but it all depends what price does with this weekly trend line. If it does respect it, then we could be seeing another move back to the downside, or maybe a retest before we go back up. But yeah, like I was saying, it just depends how price reacts with that. If we do have a retest, then we could be looking for a new uptrend, but the market still does look pretty bullish. Okay, so next we're going to take a look at AUD USD. Okay, so for AUD USD, you can see that we do have an uptrend in the market on the daily time frame, but resuming, you can see that price is now ranging. Price has struggled to break this high, and struggled to break this low, and now just moving sideways. We do have two tests of that trend line. We've got the second one just on Friday, so it's just to see what happens with the market in the early stages next week. Whether price does create that new high and breaks through that level, then we'll probably see a longer move in an uptrend in the market. But if price does break this trend line, then we need to see what happens with this larger trend line on the monthly, to see if we have a longer downtrend in the market. Because in the monthly, you can see that we've had 1, 2, and now a third, but price has broke out that trend line a little bit. So to see if it is a false breakout or just price correcting itself for the longer move to the upside. So AUD/USD is not really clear at the moment. It's still moving sideways. We need to see which direction the price is going to break out either to the upside or to the downside, and you can look for retests in the market to enter a trade either to the upside again or to the downside. Okay, so now I'm going to analyze GBP NZD. Okay, so for GBP NZD, you can still see that the market is in that downwards trend, but a bit more balls are starting to creep into the market. You can see that we had that engulfing pattern, but price is failing to push higher, giving us those wicks and those dojis, so we could see price fall back down again. And if that's the case, we'll be looking for price to either form a double bottom there or come test this level and this trend line, because on the weekly you can see that we have this ascending channel pattern with 1, 2, 3 touches on the upper trend line, and 1, 2, 3, and looking for a fourth on the lower trend line to get that move back to the upside. So that's what we're looking for on the weekly term. And on the monthly, we do have this longer downwards trend with 1, 2, 3 touches. So this could easily be a longer move to the downside. As you can see, every time it's come up, long push to the downside, come up, long push to the downside. So it's come back to touch that same monthly trend line. So we could see a longer push to the downside. But we have to respect this weekly trend line because it's a strong trend line, and we could easily get a push to the upside because the weekly is in the upwards trend. So if the monthly is going to take charge, we need to see a break of that trend line and then a retest to enter to the downside. But my bias is still long for GBP/NZD around the area, but we need to see a bit more bullish indication that the price will turn, and we'll probably find out early next week or maybe next week if that will happen. Okay, so next is CAD JPY. Okay, so for CAD JPY on the daily chart, you can see that price is still moving sideways in this ranging pattern between these two levels. So we need price to break out either to the upside or to the downside so we can get a better understanding of the direction of CAD JPY. But I'm still favoring price to break to the upside and give us a retest, and price could move to this weekly trend line up there. But if price does break to the downside, you can be seeing it move to this daily trend line here. We've had 2 touches, so we can be looking for a 3rd touch, or to this monthly trend line down there before we get a longer move to the upside. And then if I go to the weekly, you can see that we're getting lower highs on the weekly chart, giving us that downwards trend, and price has moved down, come up to the weekly, move back down, come up to the weekly trend line, move down. So we're expecting another test of that weekly trend line to give us that lower high, before we get a move back to the downside. And if we go to the monthly chart, you can see that price has been respecting this monthly trend line for some time with 2, 3, 4, and recently a 5th touch. So we're expecting price to move away from that monthly trend line and go and test that weekly before we get over a move to that monthly trend line here with 1, 2, and we're looking for a 3rd touch. So back to the daily, we're just waiting for price to break out of this pattern either to the downside, where we can see price come to this area, or to the monthly trend line, or to the upside where we can see a longer move to this trend line. Okay, so second last we have GBP USD. Okay, so for GBP USD in the daily chart, you can see that we have this slow uptrend with giving us higher highs and higher lows. I did remove my trend line on the daily chart, which to do like this. As you can see that we had the retest of that trend line here, and price moved back down, but price is still moving up in an upwards trend. So I'll remove the trend line, and I'm starting to focus more on this rising channel here with 2 touches there and 2 touches on that trend line. So it does look like we could be having a longer move to this trend line, or to this weekly trend line where they 2 intersect maybe, and then get the 3rd move down to get the overall move back down to this area. On the weekly, you can see that we've had this trend line here with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we could be getting a move to that weekly trend line to get that 6th touch and get another move back down. And on the monthly, you can see that price is in that downwards trend with 2 touches, and we're still looking for that 3rd. So back to the daily chart, you can see that we do have this ascending channel, and price is in an uptrend on the daily chart. So we're expecting price to continue to either touch the upper side of that daily trend line or this weekly trend line. There is a strong level here that price is getting rejected by, If I zoom in, you can see a little bit better. You see that price is getting rejected at this level, giving us those 2 wicks and a doji. So we could see a fall in price. And if that does happen, we'll see how price reacts with this trend line here to see if price continues to move to the upside or if price does break down and give us that move to the downside. So we'll just see what happens with next week, but price does still have that uptrend, so we are expecting price to continue rising to hit this area up there. Okay, so last but not least, we have GBP CAD. Okay, so GBP CAD daily time frame, you can see that we've had this trend line and we had a break of the trend line here and price came back to retest it, gave us that that pin bar, but price has closed back above and still looks like it's in the upwards trend now. So it does look like price gave us that false breakout and now it's going to move in an upwards direction, and we could be expecting a test of that weekly trend line up there. And on the weekly, you can see this trend line has been respected for a long time with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 even in there. So many touches, so we're looking for that 8th test soon. And back on the daily chart, all we have to wait is to see if price will break this high, because price is getting rejected from it a little bit on the lower time frames. We see if we can get a correction and then move back to the upside. On the monthly chart, you can see that we've had this monthly trend line. Price has been respecting it quite well for some time, and price has had a move from there. So it looks like price is going to break that weekly and get a move to that monthly trend lines. So on the daily, all we're waiting for is to see if price can break that high, give us a move to the upside, maybe a retest there, and then a move to the weekly trend line up there. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the video. So I hope you all enjoyed it, and if you haven't already, make sure you hit the subscribe button, leave a like, share, and hit the bell so you don't miss an upload. Drop a comment if you found this helpful or if you have any questions. But till the next one, I'll see you later.